Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to our lecturer and our friends. My name is Nushanis Aina binti Sharijam with the matrix number 2020984319, and I am going to present about our topic assignment, evaluate the advantages of unitary system by providing relevant examples. I am going to start with the introduction. A unitary state is one in which the central or national government wields all sovereign authority. States and provinces are smaller government units, but they do not have the power to make unilateral decisions. To put it another way, all government units below the national level are merely subdivisions. Many responsibility can be delegated by the national government to these local or regional units, as it often does. This authority, however, is granted by an ordinary statute passed by the national legislature rather than by the constitution, and it can be revoked at any time by the national government. The legislature of the entire of the entire country is the sole lawmaking body in a unitary structure. Other legislatures are allowed to exist and exercise their rights, but it has the legal authority to overrule them. They are subordinate to it. The most distinguishing characteristic of a unitary government is that there is only one source of authority in such a state. Local units exist solely to serve as agents of the central government. The scope of their authority, the length of their term in office, and even their legal life are all decided directly by the central government through continuous legislation. Whether they are known as countries and in Liberia or in the United Arab Emirates, native authorities or divisions in Nigeria and other Anglophone West Africa, their responsibilities, finances, forces, and even borders are constantly changing at the discretion of the central government. However, it is important to note that a unitary government does not always mean a high level of centralization. The level of initiative exercised by these governments at the local level varies by state. Since a number of ancient tribes, each with its own culture, had to be convinced to give up their freedom in the United Kingdom, the law creating British local governments allowed for a high degree of local autonomy, with the central government interfering only to a limited extent. Local governments in France are essentially local extensions of central governments, and the chief local administrator is usually appointed and dismissed by the central government. Wherever unitary governments exist, we see that government styles differ between the two extremes, but the central government is still in power. The key point to remember here is that since the central government has absolute legislative power, any duties and autonomy granted to local governments can be revoked with equal ease. This is generally done by a simple legislative act enacted by any central government regime. The most popular form of government is the unitary state, and unitary countries account for roughly 90% of all sovereign countries. The unitary form of government has a number of advantages as well as some apparent drawbacks. In fact, in this type of government seems to be better suited to culturally homogeneous countries. In less homogeneous countries, there is often a balance between the desire for local autonomy and the desire for greater local representation at the center or greater administrative independence. The most important advantage of unitary government is the ability to apply uniform laws and policies to all areas of the country, allowing the country as a whole to respond to new conditions and problems. Furthermore, unlike a federal system, this system has a relatively straightforward structure, and there is little or no overlap of staff and resources. There is no clash of authority between various levels of government, unlike in the federal system. In other words, this form of government is less likely to waste resources than others. That is all for me. Thank you so much.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Kushan Aim bin Muhammad Sofi from group AM110 and with the card matrix of 2020-956879. So today I will be presenting my part for the PAD assignment. Okay. So there are many countries around the world with different perspectives and beliefs. However, there are some countries that are known to be culturally homogeneous. A culturally homogeneous country consists of a society that has very similar way of thinking and beliefs. A country can be culturally homogeneous if it has no diversity in its society. Hence, unitary system is best fitted for non-culturally homogeneous countries, as it will be easier to focus its centralized power in a government. This is because the governed country will not disagree with the government, as the majority of the society has the same or default thinking and beliefs in what is best for their country and the public. An example of a culturally homogeneous country is none other than Japan. In fact, this country acknowledges its country as a homogeneous society, as it is shown that the citizens have a strong sense of group and national identity with very little diversity in races or ethnicity. The country's government worked based on the framework that was established by the Constitution of Japan that was first used back in 1947. Japan is considered to be a fast-paced thriving country, as it is able to adapt quickly with the uniform application of laws and policies implemented by its unitary system government. With the system present, Japan and its society were able to adapt with new conditions and problems that the country has never faced before. In addition to that, Japan is well governed, as the unitary system is best known to be a system that is able to overcome and avoid conflicts. For example, the government has lesser problems such as conflict over authority. This is because the government will always remain as the supreme holder of power in the country. Unitary system also generates a faster rate of decision making, as it has lesser competition to share its power with. This can help solve present and future problems, which ultimately benefit others. Plus, it can also be effectively less costly for the country. This is because since the unitary system does not allow multiple levels of a government, as it is only centralized as one part of the government. This can boost the efficiency of unitary state, as well as potentially decreasing the population's tax burden. Finally, the unitary system is best suited for a homogeneous country because the government will stand strong and protect the citizens' beliefs and way of thinking, which can preserve the country's culture and originality. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name Muhammad Denisha bin Zaidi from AM110 Klisi. My matric number 2020952201. So I will talk about advantage 2, which is possibility of the uniform application of law and policy to all parts of the state. Okay, the first one, the most obvious advantage that can be seen from the form of onion government is the possibility of uniform application of law and policy in all parts of the country that as a whole adapt to the circumstances and problems that arise. Furthermore, uniformity in law and policy is very important for a country because it is one of the factors in the process of strengthening the rule of law for all countries that use onion rule. In addition, the application of uniform law and policy can also guarantee equality in law and between races in a country, and it can give a better effect of harmony and peace in a country. With the uniform application of law and policy, this is also one of the important demarcation between their freedom of discretion in the judiciary or the obligation to follow previous decision in similar cases. In this onion country, the central government will hand over the authority to the subnational units, and it will give them a thoughtful idea or decision to implement it. The majority of the countries use this onion system, and it varies greatly. For example, in Britain, they decentralize power in their practice, even though they do not follow existing constitutional principle. In France, they use the classical system of central administration, and some members of the local government are appointed by the central government while others are elected. In the United States, all states within the country have an onion government using a bicameral legislature, and all government in the district within the onion state are subject to central authority. Furthermore, the power of decentralization of power among subnational government is far to the point in practice and although not in constitutional principle, but they resemble arrangement in a federation. In the system of onion government in Britain, they are important element of territorial autonomy between relation. Their system of government is chosen in a complex way, even though in constitutional theory it can be overturned by parliament. In other alien system, this decentralization is based on constitutionally allocated territories, and the powers of officers will be elected locally and in detail. That is why the constitutional in Japan stipulates the function of autonomy in a certain way only because it will be implemented by the local administrative authority for that country only. In addition, with the use of this uniform law and policy in the onion countries, it can improve the quality of administration to more systematic and also control, because with the uniformity use it can resolve things fairly and honestly. Thus, it can facilitate all affairs and speed up to solve problems. Thus, the administration of the country will be orderly because the uniformity of law and policy can show justice to the rules implemented and agreed by the community. Finally, unitary states are very suitable with this uniform system of law and policy because with this system, it can show equal justice to all its citizens and government. Administration can be more orderly and harmonized. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum and hi sir. To generally describe about myself, my name is Naziha binti Nazri, 2019404686 from AM110 So let me continue about this topic, the advantage of unitary system. So, unitary system has a simple organization. Unitary meaning one is a concentration of political power in a central government with very little power reserved for the subunits or the states. Example from around the world has to do with the UK. United Kingdom is a parliamentary system. Parliamentary system are unitary in nature, which means that London has in Parliament has all of the power. They date back in the days of the Red American Evolution, and they still do now, though they are going through a process which is kind of meaning called evolving, which mean they are giving power away to the smaller unit, but they still consider a unitary system in that parliament has supreme power over all sub-government. Power distribution describes how a government is organized. It shows where the authority or power in a country is concentrated at one national level, like unitary. The spectrum of power distribution in unitary system, if you had 100 units of power, 90 units of power would reside with the central government or the national government, and only 10 go to the state government. So the national has all the power of the center, and the state would have very little power. So that's all from me, and I will pass to the last presenter of my group. So thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Assalamualaikum and good morning semua cikgu. I am Nur Fatihah binti Nazri, student ID 2020950755. Okay, I would like to explain to you about conclusion my group presentation. So conclusion for advantages of unitary system by providing is today's more frequent form of government on our globe. There are various benefits to consider which this method. The most of them are attributable to the structure's simplicity and cost effectiveness. Instead of adhering to several laws, at the same time the general public is required to adhere to a single set of rules. This procedure reduces ambiguity and bureaucracy. The only difficulty with such a centralized government is that it can exert so much control over the people that individuals are unable to change their situation. For the people it controls, a unitary government can attempt to control every area of life. This includes understanding how financial markets work, what rights people have in their daily dealings, and who gets the majority of the money. This includes understanding how financial market operated and what rights people have in their daily interaction and who obtains the majority of social monetary benefits. The benefits and drawbacks of a unitary government aim to strike a balance between a nation's need and what a community needs to get by when properly constructed. In can provide economy local service through a system. It can provide economy local service through a centralized and efficient decision-making process. If it is structured correctly, it has the potential to become the foundation for some of the world's most societies. That's all for me. Thank you.